Guys, so the other day I went outside and I didn't even finish the story. Oh, it's because I said I went outside. Alright, that aside, for better or for worse, anime has become so popular nowadays that there are endless amounts produced by the season. For the better, it means higher quality and a range of selection. But for the worse, these adaptations are getting saturated, especially when it comes to the categories. There's more romance anime this season than there has been romance in my entire life. Okay, maybe that says more about me than it does anime. But my point is, as good as some of them may be, I want to see something different, unique, and captivating. The same way that some anime has felt to me in the past. And that's where Heavenly Delusion comes in. Honestly, at first, I wasn't fully invested. It seemed a lot like Darling in the Franxx. There was a similar setting with the caged kids, and there was an element of mystery, and we all know how that ended.
Is this it? Is this really how we're gonna end it? The plot holes in this story are so fucking large, I don't know if we're in space or the goddamn writer's room! Did I sit through 24 episodes for this?
But it wasn't like Darling in the Franxx at all. It actually had a lot more elements to it, including a shifting narrative, when at times it was a bit
Oh, come on! That is a long way down!
I'll let you touch my boobs if you go get...
That right there is the face of a real man. Yeah, I mean, I respect it. A man's gotta do what a man's gotta do, but in all seriousness, there was so much more to the story than what I originally thought. The real story was a mystery. Not just any mystery, but one consisting of two narratives. One narrative took place within the so-called heaven, but as you could tell from the robots to the aliens, this was no heaven. It was a creepy man-made structure with even creepier people running it. And the second perspective was from a quote-unquote outside world, but it was obviously connected to this heaven in some type of way. Its post-apocalyptic setting revealed the true nature of people. From fighting for scraps to straight up taking advantage of others, we saw a lot. We mainly follow our protagonists Kuroko and Maru, who are finding out what's going on in real time as us, the audiences. It does get very confusing, and as the season goes on, it stays very confusing. I mean, it's literally about to wrap up with episode 13 and I still have tons of questions, but I know they'll be answered. And honestly, I'm glad that there's still so many questions, because of previous anime like Attack on Titan. AOT wasn't confusing at first, but when we got to the basement, my brain started going Jimmy Neutron mode. And I see a lot of similarities in that feeling in Heavenly Delusion. There's subtle hints to what connects these two worlds. There's also hints between the characters and who they might be or what happened to them. And it's also held down by the suspense of the monsters. They could get them at any point in time. But none of this is handheld. This anime treats you like a smart person, and once you start to think about it, the pieces fall into place. Most of the scenes are intentional, so whatever you may be thinking can actually be very true. But even when these mysteries like who these monsters are or how do these two worlds connect are solved, there's still so much more to the story. The emotional undertones being one of the biggest. There's a specific episode, which is episode 8, that I think perfectly encapsulated this. This doctor, who I'm not gonna lie looked evil as hell, had a gut-wrenching story, keeping what was left of this woman alive to such an excruciating point that she wanted to end her own life, but without turning into a monster. This meant Maru would have to kill a person, not a monster this time, and it was a huge shift in the story. The levels that Maru and Kuroko were bound to face given his power, showing kindness in a way that'll scar him. This power actually entailed a burden now, and the pain that Maru will have to carry on. And just like that, the greatness of this current anime is matched by its potential. And I haven't even mentioned the production quality yet, but it is beautiful. First off, we got a soundtrack by Ushio Kensuke, and then you got Production IG. This is honestly the best studio to choose. They have a history of choosing more obscure psychological works like Psycho-Pass and Moriarty the Patriot, alongside some of the best sports anime in Haikyuu, which ironically all works for Heavenly Delusion. Movements wise, it is like a sports anime and involves our main two characters who have to work together to survive, while the psychological part speaks for itself. The quality matches the level of the plot, which is beyond me considering I barely heard about it prior to release. But then again, given this anime season, it's not so surprising more people weren't hyping it up. But this is one of those anime that if kept up will go down as one of the best. This is a one-of-a-kind experience. Even though it could fit into a category like psychological horror, it is much more than that. To tell a story of broken people in an even more broken environment is truly special. This post-apocalyptic world reveals the true nature of people, the greed and the levels that some will go to simply because of the setting. And I noticed recently that Hollywood is taking notice to that fact. And then simultaneously, or not simultaneously, because to be honest I don't know if these worlds take place at the same time, there's an insanely immoral level of experimentation, testing the limits of humanity, trying to best God and in turn trying to become one themselves. It's twisted and dark but also has its comedic relief. Currently of the shows airing, I love Oshi No Ko, Demon Slayer, and Hell's Paradise, but I can confidently say that this anime is doing something different from all of those. Of course, I still think it's worth checking those others out, but it is so refreshing to have found an anime like this, doing something different but executing it so well. Now I'm gonna get into spoilers a bit if you haven't seen this anime yet, but I couldn't recommend it more. There's immediately some things I want to get into. First off being Robin. Why? Just why? If you've seen episode 12, you know what I'm talking about, and man was that a tough watch. This man prior was one of my favorite characters in the show. A huge reason I even stuck with the show in the first place is because I heard Zoro's voice actor.
うちの若いもんがずいぶん世話になってるみたいじゃねえか。見覚えがあるような、ないような。
And I even made this thumbnail before I saw episode 12 and I regret everything. This man do not deserve a thing, let alone being on the thumbnail. And there was also a disturbing episode of Hell's Paradise this week and I just need to go to church. I need to cleanse off everything I just witnessed. And some people might be wondering, is this too much? How disturbing can we get before it's unreasonable? To which I say, this does technically fit into the plot. And there just has to be more to it. Not an explanation, because no explanation is saving Robin, but in works like Perfect Blue, there were compelling narratives given it was extremely tough to watch. It's a good show nonetheless, and I'm hopeful that this man gets his ass pulverized to oblivion for what he did. But besides that disturbing scene, the other stuff like the emotional parts, including the doctor's story and also the guy who was part of this insanely twisted breeding farm, just landed really well. Overall, when it comes to the show, I'm still a bit lost. I have an idea, but I'm not positive. For an example, as we know, Kiriko is a man in a woman's body.
She's delusional.
Human race is going to end real soon if this LGBTQ
I hate how they're
keeps
forcing
spreading.
LGBT stuff in literally anything.
Say it with me now. If there's a hole, there's a goal.
So there was definitely other brain transplants, and that also might explain other people's motives or changed in character, but I have no way of knowing yet. And confused or not, Heavenly Delusion is a breath of fresh air in creativity and originality. Despite the amount of anime produced nowadays, it really is rare to come across works like this, and I am more than glad to have come across it.